Welcome back. Well, I'm going to be focusing on polio, and I hope you'll join me in my conversations with Dr. Ntwi Ajay. He's a program manager when it comes to immunization of the Ghana Health Service. Tomorrow, we are going to begin a National Immunization Day, and it's a mass exercise to mop up any possibility of a polio outbreak in any part of Ghana. We started our mass polio vaccinations as far back as 1996. We've chalked considerable successes, but there is still a lot of ground to be covered, lots of knowledge to be shared and applied. So your questions, as usual, and comments are as good as mine. If you've had any questions in the back of your mind when it comes to polio and its prevention, well, this would be a time to share them with me and with Dr. Ntwi Ajay. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise, sir. How are you, Doc?
Fine.
Very well. Okay, this thing about the polio vaccine, tell me a little bit about it. Is it simple, is it safe, and is it 100% effective?
Yeah. Polio vaccine is a very safe vaccine. In fact, billions of doses have been administered. And over here in Ghana, we've started the vaccination campaign since 1996, as you've indicated. And we've had very few problems. So it's safe and it's also effective. And effectiveness is measured by the fact that when you give it, it's able to control the disease. And we know that areas where the polio vaccination coverage has been low, they usually get wild polio virus cases. But over here in Ghana, since we started from 2008 till now, we've had no case of wild polio virus. And it's not as if we are not looking. We are looking closely. Every case of paralysis is fully investigated to know whether it's caused by the polio virus. And last year, for instance, more than 200 specimens were sent to Noguchi lab, and they all tested negative for polio. So it's an effective and safe vaccine.
Is there any risk at all to the vaccine or to the way it's administered?
No, but usually vaccines work by mimicking the disease they are supposed to prevent, so that it causes a mild form of the disease but doesn't progress to and by causing that, it provokes the body to produce antibodies, and the antibodies also just protect you against further invasion by that particular organism. So it may cause a mild form of fever and some cases some bit of diarrhea, but it's not serious enough to cause a disease. But for most people, they pass through without any side effects at all. So it's quite a safe vaccine.
And it's something that actually improves our immune system. It strengthens it.
Definitely.
It doesn't have any adverse effect on it.
No. The immune system is supposed to protect you. Yeah. So if it affects the body, then it's no more a protective agent, but a destructive agent. So it's actually going to boost your immunity and your ability to fight the disease. And in this case, it's specific because you are immunized against polio. It fights against polio, and it's also manifest in Ghana, where we've had considerable level of success. We are not having cases of wild polio. But in Nigeria, for instance, they continue to have cases.
I noted that you've vaccinated nearly 4.5 million children, and I wonder how many times a child needs to be vaccinated, and at which stage in one's life. Is it between the ages of 1 and 5? In how many doses? What's the basic knowledge that everyone should have?
Thank you for the question. I think we vaccinate between 4.5 to 5 million almost every year. This year, for instance, our target is around 5.4 million children.
Are these new vaccinations or repeat vaccinations?
Some will be new. Those who are born after the last campaign, for instance, will be receiving it for the first time. But those, even if a child is born tomorrow, Friday or Saturday, that child will still be included in the campaign. So for some it will be new, which we call the zero dose. But for a lot of people, they've had it already. And normally, polio vaccination is given at birth. Then when the child is 6 weeks old, they get the first dose. The birth dose is called a zero dose. So 6 weeks, 10 weeks, the second dose, and then 14 weeks, the third dose. So 3 doses are given in the primary series. But then available scientific knowledge has informed us that after the third dose, or the child has received the 4 primary doses, the 73% of children will become fully protected. So about 27% are not, even though they are vaccinated with a potent vaccine, because in our environment there are a lot of other enteroviruses or other viruses in the intestines. The polio vaccine is given oral, and it has to attach to a binding site in the intestines so that the body can recognize it, and then you develop the full immunity. So if it just passes through the intestines, through the feces, and then goes out, then it doesn't bind, and then you don't develop the necessary immune protection. So such children do not become protected, even though in our books we would have marked them that they've been vaccinated. So for the sake of the 27%, and as I was saying, you can't look at a person's face and know that this person will develop the immunity or protection and this child won't. So the other option is to pick blood samples from all these 5 million children, and you can imagine the problems we are going to have with all these blood samples. So the public health decision is made that for the sake of the 27%, we'll continue. And it's also established scientific fact that in our environment, as I was saying, because of our sanitation situation, we need, or a child up to 5 years needs between 10 to 15 doses of the polio vaccine to become fully protected. And that is why we continue to give after the primary doses, where you end up with about 3 or 4, you get 2 every year till the age of 5, and then you are heading towards the minimum of 10 to 15 doses.
So we can expect someone from the Ghana Health Service to come knocking on our door, asking for a child under the age of 5 and administering this vaccine to them.
Yeah.
And in that regard, Osman Jubrila posed a question that's been circulating for a number of years. Is how come people get deformed after vaccination?
No, people don't get deformed.
They don't get deformed.
Yeah, and you see, deformation or paralysis is caused by several diseases. Polio is only one of them. So it doesn't mean that even after eradication of polio, there will be no more paralysis in this world. And that is why for every stool, every polarized case, we take the stool specimen to check if the paralysis was caused by polio. So the incidence of paralysis would otherwise have been higher if we haven't eradicated polio. So polio eradication doesn't solve the problem of all paralysis, but then it reduces at least the portion which is caused by the polio virus. And that was even more dangerous and more deadly. That's the diaphragm. And once that the diaphragm is affected, you cease breathing, you die. So it's actually a killer disease.
Okay, the info background that you gave me actually mentions paralysis, and it says that any child under the age of 15 who develops sudden paralysis or weakness of their limbs, that's their hands or their legs, should be reported to the nearest health center within 24 hours. Now, what is the reason for giving out this information?
Yeah, it's very important. That's for the surveillance aspects. We have to watch, and we are eradicating a disease. So we got to know whether the disease we are eradicating is actually not there. But the easiest thing is not to look for it. Then you say it doesn't exist. But we are actively searching for it. And we know that the polio virus causes acute paralysis. Within a period of 2 to 3 days, the child is suddenly attacked and is paralyzed. So it's as opposed to other forms of paralysis, which are stiff. This one is floppy or soft. Yeah, so that's one way of getting the earlier the report, the more likely we are to find the virus. If we look at the specimen, if the paralysis has occurred more than 14 days, then the chances of seeing the virus in the stool reduces. So in such cases, you can conclude that the virus is not there, because the probability is way down. And that is why we advise people to report as soon as possible, so that we can get the specimen, and then it helps us in diagnosing whether it's caused by the polio virus or not.
Looking back at all the experience that you've had and all the children that you've vaccinated over the years, starting from 1996, what would you say the key challenge or the key challenges have been, and how are these being addressed?
Okay, 96 when we started till 2000, we were actually working at static points under trees in classes, school buildings.
So people had to come to you.
People had to come to us. They saw that, okay, you then vaccinated only those who came. What about those who didn't come? So the strategy was changed to house since 2000. And then we moved, now we train volunteers who move from house to house. Then people are stationed in markets, and they go to schools, and even along the highways at barriers and things where people are crossing, so that we try to reach almost every child. And we plan and even go to island areas, because around 97, one of the cases we had came from an island on the Volta Lake called 37.
Hard to reach of Ghana.
Yeah. So it came from there. So then it dawned on us that every part needs to be reached.
Every part needs to be reached. And that's exactly what Topic Ghana posted early on when I just introduced the topic. Says he thinks we should always have TV ads on polio and vaccination and immunizations running every day. Do you think that we have enough public education in this regard in Ghana?
Okay, I think we are doing our best, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. And if people will report early, that will be very helpful. But then for us, the best is to prevent the disease. And so far, if for 5 years we are looking but we are not getting the disease, I think the system is doing well as far as the prevention is concerned. But in terms of reporting, I think any paralysis, they should report as early as possible to the nearest health facility, so that appropriate measures are taken to investigate and arrive at a clear diagnosis.
How long is the immunization exercise going to span this year?
This year is for 3 days.
3 days.
It's starting from tomorrow, 6th of June, and it will run on Friday, 7th, and end on Saturday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Now, how likely are you to get all the children who are on the backs of their mothers who are going to work or traveling in that period?
Yeah, thank you. We've structured the system so that we've trained, we know we have about 5.4 million children to reach. So, and it's over a period of 3 days. So how many volunteers do we need? We trained about 45,000 volunteers, and each has an assigned responsibility. So each volunteer is to at least reach about 85 children per day. And with that type of estimation, we are sure that, that's why I said that some people, teams will be stationed in marketplaces. We know that they are on their mother's back and things, and then the education is going on. It's not only TV, radio, and then at community level, they also beat the gongo, a call to action, telling people that the teams are coming to you this day or that day, and then so we try as much as possible. So people, while some are moving from house to house, some are also stationed at areas where people are likely to be crossing, even at border posts, so that people moving from neighboring countries and also living through our borders are all more or less encountered and vaccinated.
And you're also going to be giving out vitamin A.
Yeah.
Why vitamin A in particular?
Vitamin A is very essential for the child, because one, it helps with boosting the immune system and protects them against acquiring some infection. Then it's also good for the eye, because it prevents night blindness. So, and then interestingly, the same group up to 5 years are those mostly affected by vitamin A deficiency. So it was thought wise that on the occasion of reaching under 5s, let's pool the two programs together. So whilst administering the polio vaccine, then it's more cost effective to add vitamin A. But the case of vitamin A will be from the children 6 months and older. Those who are less are not to be given the vitamin A.
And I think one of your volunteers is joining our conversation, Ajiman Isaac, commenting on cost, or rather pay. Says the pay that workers receive during the polio vaccination is very low. Wants to know whether things are going to change for us. That's Isaac Ajiman. And Felix are asking about if there has been any allergic reaction to any of these vaccines that you have on record.
No
allergic reaction.
Polio, we don't have any record like that.
No record.
But we have a system of monitoring the safety. If there is any adverse event after the administration of the vaccine, the mother or father should take the child to the nearest health center, and we have case investigation forms. So they will report, and all the reports are collated, and we also have to submit it to the Food and Drugs Board, and it's so for all vaccines. So we monitor the safety all the time. But for the volunteers, I must say that what we are giving them, he mentioned pay. We don't actually pay them, but we give volunteer allowance for lunch. It says sort of we need to all contribute towards the eradication, because if we are actually to pay, it's not affordable. But then and that is why we give a little. It's about 8 cedis, 9 cedis a day. It's not much, but at least for a lunch. So we quite well acknowledge and appreciate their contribution. Some of them work as early as dawn till late in the night. They return to their homes. So we appreciate their efforts, and I think part of the joy is that we are helping to eradicate a disease.
Okay, and I suppose everyone watching and listening can also help by spreading the word. You're going to receive a knock on your door from a Ghana Health Service personnel, a volunteer, who who is working for as little as a lunch allowance, trying to make sure that polio passes you by. And it's as simple as an oral vaccination which has no known side effects, as well as a dose of vitamin A for any child under the age of 5. And this is going to take place tomorrow, Friday and Saturday all over Ghana simultaneously. 45,000 volunteers with a target of millions of children. Well, hopefully we are not going to see any more cases of polio in Ghana ever.